صلوات على محمد وآل محمد ما صل على محمد وآل محمد. We will begin the Majlis for Marhum Dr. Syed Ahmed Hasnain with the recitation of Quran. I will recite Surah Asr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Jafar Hasnain. I am the son of Dr. Syed Ahmed Hasnain, whose 10th birthday we are here to commemorate. Thank you for being here live. Thank you for being here via YouTube live. And thank you for those who will listen and watch this event later on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. What I would like to do is spend a few minutes, if you will allow, to talk about my dad. We called him Dad, and give you a sense of the kind of man he was. And then we will progress on through the evening. My dad, Dr. Ahmed Hasnain, was born in Dehradun in India, in UP. What was then UP, it is now the province of Uttarakhand, not too far from Delhi. He went to high school there, graduated high school in 1948, and topped in all of UP that year. I have seen that inscription in his school, and it was delightful to see. He then studied physics and mathematics at Aligarh University, did very well there, topped there too, and then moved to Pakistan with I'd say about a half of his siblings, and we will talk about that in a minute. He moved to Lahore. He studied at FC College Lahore, where he did very well. And back then, the Wali of Swat was starting to establish a school in Swat, which still exists. And he would pick the smartest boys from all over Pakistan, would bring them there. And the deal was, you will teach there my students. And after that, I will help you go wherever you want. Dad did that, lived in Swat for some time, and then came to the United States as a Fulbright scholar, studying for his PhD in nuclear engineering at North Carolina State University, which at that time in the early 50s had its own research reactor, which was incredible. He got his PhD in the early 50s. Interestingly enough, he worked at Argonne National Labs in Downers Grove for quite a while. This is before there were any highways or anything like that. He would always ask me how Ogden Avenue was going. He then was recruited by essentially the first generation of scientists and engineers for the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, a bunch of phenomenal people who truly did things in Pakistan against the odds with no resources. The things they built still work today. The Karachi nuclear power plant, where we lived very close by, still operates against the world's wishes. It was built, and it was built extremely well. It still functions without any problems. These are people that we should all be very proud of. My dad was a quiet man. Personally, professionally, though, he was in a category by himself. From him, I've learned to be tough and to persevere and to work hard and to be intellectually and personally honest and to make tough decisions. He never really talked about the late 40s and the migration from India to Pakistan, but my Taya, his elder brother, when I visited him in Dehradun, said a story that I will share with you, which is that in 47, in Dehradun, when the partition occurred, everything was fine. There were very few Muslims. There still are very few Muslims. The house that my father and his family had, Hasnain Manzil, is still there. It's a very large piece of land, very close to, actually in the city. And back then, when refugees came, mainly from Punjab, they said, why is this family living in this large an area? Because by then it had become a refugee camp as well for Muslims. The other complicating factor was, and this is in some ways an indication that partition was done very early, my Dada and Dadi, Sayyid Muhammad Hasnain and his wife, my Dadi Narjis Khatun, were actually at Hajj. So the eldest person, the eldest male in the house was my Taya, who was maybe 17, not that, and my dad, who was maybe 14, 15, and my Puppi, who was right around there as well. So there was nobody in the house. When these refugees came in, things got bad. The local police chief came to the house and said, look, I know that late tonight there will be an attack on your house, and it is going to be very bad, and I do not have the policeman to protect you. So the police chief knew the family. Our family had lived there for many, many years before that through my great-grandfather and through his father and his uncles and aunts. He said, here's what we will do. I am going to find my own gun in this house. I will say that I found this gun on somebody, and therefore every male in this compound and house is under arrest. And because there are too many people here, I cannot put everybody in jail. We will declare Hasnain Manzil at 7 EC Road, Dehradun, as a sub-jail. I'll plant the Indian flag outside. 2 of my Sipahis will sit outside, and they will, when the Jatha comes, they will be told, you cannot touch this. This is Government of India property. However, I need one of you guys to go to the real jail. And at that point, my Taya's voice cracked, and he said, you know, Amy, my dad was called Amy by people. Amy was a very brave man. He immediately put up his hand and said, I will go. The other thing was, this was Ashra. So the bottom line is, Ashura day of, I believe, 1947, Dad spent in the jail in Dehradun, and he was very fine with it. They came back. Their crossover to Pakistan is another story. They almost didn't make it. When we sit here today and reflect on it's cold, it's rainy, it's this, is that, we should just remember that none of this, all of this could have been for nothing. If one person had not said something that, you know, I tell you, this train bogie only has the family of an officer of the Indian Army, which was actually factually correct, because one of my relatives was a major in the Indian Army. He was not there, but this was his family going, and it came literally to that. So I am thankful that my dad taught me the things he taught me. I think about him every day. I rejoice in that fact. I feel sad. It is natural. But I feel a great deal of strength knowing that my dad made decisions that were much tougher than anything that I could ever make. To me, he remains a role model and a guide. And, you know, as life progresses along, I hope that he is also a guide and role model in absentia for my children. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being on YouTube. I would now like to ask Jafar Syed to please come up and start the evening. So thank you and Assalamu alaikum. Salawat.
We recite a Fatiha for Dr. Syed Ahmed Hasnain. علی بھائی موجود ہیں, چاہیں گے کہ ان کو زیادہ سنیں تو اس لیے چھوٹا سا ایک سلام ہے. وہ بھی no, as you said, Brother Hasnain, how tough your father was, so I thought I'd recite about a personality that was very tough when it comes to one of our leaders. Hazrat Abbas کی شان میں ایک چھوٹا سا سلام. علم کا تو ہمیں سایہ بہت ہے, علم کا تو ہمیں سایہ بہت ہے, علی کا لال کام آیا بہت ہے, علم کا تو ہمیں سایہ بہت ہے, کرے غازی نہ کیوں مشکل کشائی, کرے غازی نہ کیوں مشکل کشائی, ہنر بابا سے یہ پایا بہت ہے, علم کا تو ہمیں سایہ بہت ہے, سنا جبریل کچھ اس گھر کی باتیں, سنا جبریل کچھ اس گھر کی باتیں, در زہرا پہ تو آیا بہت ہے, علم کا تو ہمیں سایہ بہت ہے, علی اللہ نہیں اللہ علی
اللہ نہیں اللہ علی ہے. خدا کو نام یہ بھایا بہت ہے. علم کا تو ہمیں سایہ بہت ہے. علی کا لال کام آیا بہت ہے. علم کا تو ہمیں صلوات علی محمد وعلیہ.
ایک دفعہ صلوات پڑھنے مل کے. جو شریک بزم شاہ کربلا شریک بزم شاہ کربلا بھئی وہ گناہوں سے بری روز جزا ہو جائے گا. جو شریک نار سے نکلا ادھر یا خلد میں داخل ہوا بھئی کیا خبر تھی حر پہ یوں فضل خدا ہو جائے گا. جو شریک صلی اللہ علیہ متحد رکھے ہے تسبیح ازا متحد رکھے ہے کل قوم کو تسبیح ازا بھائی ڈور ٹوٹے گی تو دانے بھی بکھر جائیں گے متحد رکھے ہے بھائی مچھلیاں زندہ کہاں رہتی ہیں پانی کے بغیر بھائی ہم غم شے سے جدا ہوں گے تو مر جائیں گے متحد رکھے ہے صلوات پڑھ لیں مل کر بس 4 مصرے اور اس کے بعد انشاءاللہ مختصر سا مرثیہ یہ سارے کلام میرے ماموں فخر ہند جناب حسن علی زیدی صاحب کے پڑھے ہوئے ہیں تو فرض بنتا ہے میرا کہ ان کا شامل کروں اپنے اس میں ثواب میں میں کیا بیان کروں گا تیری شان یا علی بھئی میں کیا بیان کروں گا تیری شان یا علی بھئی جب تیرا مدخوان ہے یزدان یا علی بھئی چہروں کو دیکھتا ہوں تیرا ذکر چھیڑ کر بھئی چہروں کو دیکھتا ہوں تیرا ذکر چھیڑ ہے ذکر تیرا نسلوں کی پہچان یا علی بھئی میں کیا بیان کروں فاتحہ. جس دم نگین خاتم پیغام براں گرا، جس دم نگین خاتم پیغام براں گرا، ارے رونق اٹھی زمیں سے امام زماں گرا، بھائی گرنے پہ سب گروہ لیے برچیاں گرا، ہائے ہائے نہ ان جفاؤں پہ بھی آسماں گرا، اور زہرا سے پوچھئے یہ قلق نور عین کا، ارے تپنا زمیں کا اور تپنا زمیں کا اور تڑپنا حسین کا، ارے زینب کا وہ تڑپنا وہ گھبرانا یاس کا، وہ تھر تھرانا دل کا وہ اڑنا حواس کا، ارے کہنا بلک بلک کے یہ کلمہ ہے راز کا، اے شمر واسطہ علی اصغر کی پیاس کا، ارے للہ 3 روز کے پیاسے کو چھوڑ دے، صدقہ نبی کا ان کے، ارے صدقہ نبی کا ان کے نواسے کو چھوڑ دے، ارے تھم جا خدا کو مان حبیب خدا کو مان، زہرا کو مان، حضرت مشکل کشا کو مان، سوگند فقر و فاقہ آل ہبا کو مان، ارے اپنی رسول زادی کی تو التجا کو مان، ارے سارے بزرگ مر گئے مجھ بد نصیب کے، ارے میرا کوئی نہیں ہے، ارے میرا کوئی نہیں ہے سوائے غریب کے، ارے اے شمر میں گلے سے لگا لوں تو ذبح کر، ارے بھائی سے مل کے خیمے میں جالوں تو ذبح کر، ارے کچھ درد اپنے دل کا سنا لوں تو ذبح کر، ارے سید کو قبلہ رو میں لٹا لوں تو ذبح کر، ارے پانی تو بھوکے پیاسے کو اے بدخصال دے، ہے وقت ذبح آنکھوں پہ، ارے ہے وقت ذبح آنکھوں پہ، کپڑا تو ڈال دے، ارے اے شمر تجھ کو خالق اکبر کا واسطہ، اے شمر تجھ کو روح پیمبر کا واسطہ، اے شمر تجھ کو حیدر صفدر کا واسطہ، اے شمر تجھ کو ننھے سے اصغر کا واسطہ، ارے للہ نہ للہ کرنا ذبح شاہ مشرقین کو، ارے میں بھیک مانگتی ہوں، ارے میں بھیک مانگتی ہوں، مجھے دے حسین کو۔ فاتحہ۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا، صل على أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه صلوات. Dear brothers and sisters in Iman, we are gathered in this evening at Baitul in Chicago to commemorate the demise of Marhum Maghfoor Dr. Syed Ahmed Hasnain. Today is his 10th anniversary of his death, Dasmi Barsi, and we are having this Majlis of Eisal-e-Thawaab. And before I begin my talk, I would like to request you all, whether you are sitting here in masjid or you are listening online, that please recite a Surah Mubarakah, Fatiha, for his Eisal-e-Thawaab, masbuqatan bis salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Please recite a salawat. As you know, when I address any Majlis of Eisal-e-Thawaab, I take some time in the beginning to talk about the person that whose Majlis-e-Eisal-e-Thawaab is being addressed. And I believe that this is a right of that marhum upon his family, upon us as believers, as community members, to remember him in good words and to acknowledge some of his contributions and his good deeds. We have a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam where he has commended that whenever you talk about your deceased ones, about those who have passed away, always talk about them in good words. Always praise them, acknowledge them, pay your tribute to them, and remember them in good way and in good words. Marhum Dr. Syed Ahmed Hasnain, as you just heard, he and his family comes from a very known and prestigious place in UP known as Dehradun. And he comes from two very noble families when you look at his maternal side and paternal side. He comes from the families of Hasnain and families of Haider. Both families were very distinguished and honored and accomplished for their love of knowledge, their patronage for educational institutions, and also
both families, and particularly the family from his mother's side, the Haider family, was very known for their outstanding and remarkable services for the community. His maternal grandfather, Marhum Haji Syed Jalaluddin Haider, was a very known community leader and known as a reformer. He was founder of this very well-known organization in our times, Anjuman Wazifa Sadatu Mu'mineen. This Anjuman of Wazifa Sadatu Mu'mineen was founded by his maternal grandfather, Marhum Haji Syed Jalaluddin Haider. And those of you who know about this organization, this Anjuman has served in India and then in Pakistan, and it is still serving, and it has now a chapter in North America. They provide loans, Qarzul Hasana, and they always had provided the scholarships to the students to carry on their education at colleges and universities. And I have seen personally with my own eyes very accomplished and senior professionals and very successful businessmen in our communities that who would take the pride, they would not shy away, they would take the pride that they were the recipients of that scholarship from Anjuman Wazifa Sadatu Mu'mineen. And they were able to go to the college and to the universities, and they were able to complete their education. And then they started their careers, their professional life, and then they themselves became source of lot of khair, source of lot of virtue and goodness. So this Anjuman Wazifa Sadatu Mu'mineen comes from this family. I have seen the picture of Marhum Mafur and his biography. At one time it was, I think, printed and distributed by Anjuman Wazifa Sadatu Mu'mineen. So I have seen it. Marhum Haji Jalaluddin Haider, in addition to this Anjuman Wazifa Sadatu Mu'mineen, since he was a reformer in the community and very much ahead of his time and a visionary leader and dedicated leader, he established another organization and he initiated another initiative. And you will appreciate more if you know the history of our subcontinent and our culture and tradition of India or Pakistan or in that whole region. And the initiative was Anjuman Aqde Biwagan. He felt that many women, when they become widow, then they just remain single and they don't get married anymore. Even at those times and even today sometimes, these widows are very young in their age. Women would get widow in their sometime in their early 20s or mid 20s or late 20s, and then in 30s and 40s and whatever. And it was a taboo for these women to get married again. First of all, nobody would marry them. And if they would get married again, it was something that it was looked down upon them, that why they got another marriage, why they got another husband. Realizing this pain and the problem of community, he initiated this organization, and he has gone through a lot because this was not welcomed and received. This initiative was not very much welcomed and appreciated as his other initiative, Anjuman Wazifa Sadatu Mu'mineen, was welcomed and appreciated. But that shows the vision, dedication, and the concern and the caliber of the leader. So that was his maternal side. His paternal side also was very accomplished when it comes to the knowledge, scholarship. All of them were highly educated people. They went to very excellent schools, and then after graduating from those schools, they became gazetted officers, they became very senior officials in government even before partition. But one thing which is very noteworthy, that even being highly educated, and many of them, they got educated from those missionary schools and mission schools and those English medium schools established and run by missionaries or Anglo-American or Anglo-Indian people. They were extremely religious, pious, practicing. All of them were Hajis. If you read their history, all of them are Haji in those times. And then not only that they were Hajis, they were very much regular with their daily prayers, not only the 5 daily prayers, but they never missed their Salatul Layl, Namaz-e-Shab, Tahajjud. They were known for that. It's a very difficult balance to maintain, that on one hand you are product of those schools, you are part of that elite class, you are a reformer, because many of us, when we become reformers, then we think, because I am a reformer, so I have to now go toward the liberal kind of line of the people, or to the liberal camp, and they run away from this very much regular or the conservative practice of Islam. Then Salat, they say Allah has many angels to pray. I don't have to too much worry about prayers. I just need to give people money. People need more my money than Allah needs my prayers, for example. Or fasting or Hajj or many of the rituals of Islam, then they relax these areas. They say the fasting, the Hajj, the namaz, for example, parda, the hijab, these things are not that important, or they are not necessary. All what is necessary is the scholarship, the stipend, the food, the money, my social services, and what I do for the community and society. But if you read the history of this family and its elders, they were highly educated, they were reformers, they were activists, they were leaders, but at the same time, they were Haji, they were Namazi, they was Qaimul Layl, and they were the people observing hijab, and they were maintaining all the wajibat and the traditions of Islamic Sharia, which makes them very special, and that's why I have so much respect for them, and that's why I took time my time is very limited for this majlis, but I thought that it is important to note this, because this is something which many of us, when we get into activism, when we get into these social initiatives, and when we get into the community service, then we put our hijab at home, then we put our Islamic rituals at home, we start shying away from those kind of things, and we feel that now, since we are doing this, so we cannot do those things. No, perfectly you can serve God and you can serve humanity without compromising on those principles and on those things. Recite a salawat. As you heard from Sayyid Jafar Hasnain, Dr. Ahmed Hasnain was an accomplished scientist. He was a very distinguished scientist in the area of nuclear technology, and was one of those pioneers that who established this nuclear technology program in Karachi in Pakistan. And he was one of our national heroes, that today we as a nation in that country as Pakistani or Pakistani Americans, we have a special respect for him, because all these other guys came later that who have got more name and more fame. But the initial people, the group of those 5 or 7 that who got together and who put the foundation of this program and established it, he was one of those leading people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and bless his soul and reward him for his services. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him and place him in the company of Muhammadu Ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. One thing to note is also that many of accomplished people, whether they are scholars, whether they are scientists, even whether they are ulama, politicians, leaders, artists, and business people, when they are leading in their area and they are very much accomplished, one thing where they fail, that is their own family and their own children. Because entrepreneurs, people who are very much involved in anthropology, those who are very successful business people, when they are flying high, riding high, 5-star people, 7-star people, very important people, big dads normally don't have big sons. Normally, those very accomplished fathers that who are celebrated in community and those who hold the whole stage, you will hardly see their sons also coming on the stage, because they never have time to take care of their families and to take care of their children. They're all traveling around the globe, working and very busy, celebrating their own legacy or whatever you can call it. But I have very special respect of those scientists and those scholars and those poets and artists and ulama and leaders that in addition to providing their services to community and in addition to establishing themselves in their careers, they never did that at the cost of their family and at the cost of their children. Very difficult balance to maintain. And Marhum Dr. Syed Ahmed Hasnain was one of those people that although he was very busy in his career and his services and what he was doing, but again he passed the torch, very successful, to his next generation, to his children, to his family, who are carrying his legacy, who are maintaining again the legacy of the father and the grandfather and the great-grandfather. And we can see that. I don't have to now tell you the details. Brother Sayyid Jafar Hasnain, Sister Arshia Hasnain are sitting here amongst us. We know them from last 20 years. I came to know them, I believe it was 2001. And now this is 2021, so it's 20 years. They just moved from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And my family had moved from Iran, from Qom, in the same year. And my children, since they were Farsi speaking, they just came in. They needed help with their English. And we were struggling at that time. And this was the bad year, as you know. This was just right after 9/11. So it was a very difficult time. And when we looked around, then I was introduced to Sister Arshia Hasnain, that she can be the best person that who can help my children at that time of need. So I would take my children from Glendale Heights to Hinsdale to their home, and she would very graciously help my children. And Alhamdulillah, whatever my children finally they got into the mainstream education and everything, but she was the one that initially who helped them. So that is how we first came to know. And then when we started the Baitul Ilm, they had On and Asad, and now they needed the help with their Sunday schooling. So they started coming here all the way from Hinsdale to South Barrington, from where we had started the Sunday school, then coming for years and years here at in Streamwood at Baitul Ilm. And mashallah, both of them, while they studied here in all those years, they are product of Baitul Ilm and Baitul Ilm Sunday School, and we stand behind our product, and we feel always proud of our graduates at Baitul Ilm and our Sunday school, and mashallah, they are doing great. And while they were studying here, their mother and their father, both of them, they got fully involved Baitul Ilm with school, and both of them, brother Syed Jafar Hasnain became the teacher at Sunday school, and he remained teacher and mentor for many, many years. Many of our graduates are his students. And Sister Arshia was also teacher and sometimes substitute teacher, and sometimes she worked in some other areas, working and helping and mentoring our Sunday school students. And then, since we purchased our property and Imami was now growing up and we were expanding, so initially we had started the project with 3-4 trustees. Then we were looking around some like-minded people that who can join us and become the not only Subhanallah guys and Mashallah guys who just gave us the praise and say Subhanallah, Maulana, you are doing great. Now we needed some helpers, we needed some people that who can give us some hand, and particularly those who can open their wallet and who can put the wallet on table. That's the term which always I use. And those who were ready to put their money also, not only their words. So I remember like yesterday, Dr. Sayyid Sajjad Asghar and myself, we went both to visit Hasnains at their home in Hinsdale, and we requested them and we invited them to join the board of trustees. And then he becomes the trustee of Baitul Ilm, and this was very pivotal phase yet. We are talking about all the initial years when we were in South Building. And then when we started this project, this grand project of North Building, so while everybody was giving their blood and sweat and their hard-earned money in bulk, so Sayyid Jafar Hasnain was, and his family was also one of those families that who opened their heart, who opened their wallet, and who not only gave their money, but also in addition to that, he helped us in so many other areas. If you remember 2008, and when the economy was all just gone south, and the banks were becoming bankrupt, and everything was going wrong, at that time securing the loan, and a jumbo loan, a loan of $3 million for a non-for-profit. And at that bad time, it was walking on Pule Sirat. And at that time, this particular initiative was spearheaded by Sayyid Jafar Hasnain. We were helping him, but he was the one that who had the flag in his hand and going door to door to this bank and this place and that place. And finally, he was able that in 2008 to secure that kind of loan. So, meaning this dedication and this much devotion, this much service, it doesn't come, my brothers and sisters, just from nowhere. You have to have roots. You have to have those kind of genes. You have to have those kind of parents and fathers and mothers and grandparents and great grandparents and their du'as and their what you call the tarbiyat, that which motivates you and brings you here. So I will end this portion of my speech with this, that Sayyid Jafar Hasnain served this great center in Chicagoland, and you know this is not just a center, this is center of centers. It is center of centers, and it is a center which is trendsetter, not only in our city, but actually in whole United States of America, and many places even out of United States of America. There are so many right now centers and organizations in this city and in United States and in Canada, in Europe and back home even in Pakistan, that who look at Baitul Ilm as a successful model, and they follow the traditions and the trends of Baitul Ilm. So Alhamdulillah, he and his family, Sister Arshia and all the family, they have participated in this, and they have done their job. Now as our senior trustees are retiring one after another because they have done their job, and a number of our senior trustees have retired, including Sayyid Jafar Hasnain. So we are now just giving the heads up to the two gentlemen here, young guys sitting in front of me, Asad and On, that I am giving you 10 years. 10 years. That after 10 years, we will be welcoming you to continue the legacy of your father, your mother, your grandparents and your great grandparents, as the other young guys will be also doing the same thing for their parents. And this is how this system works, and this is how the system continues. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all for your services and reward you, and reward not only you, but reward your those parents and your grandparents that who actually trained you in this way. You know, in Farsi in Iran, when somebody is pleased with some of your good deeds, and if you favor someone, if you do something good for someone and they want to acknowledge it, and if they want to appreciate you, what do they say? They say, Khuda fedar etra biya murze. Khuda fedar etra biya murze. They pray for your father. They say, may Allah pardon, forgive and elevate the levels of your father. And sometimes they use the word fedar or mother, both. But when even they say father, it is the same thing. So the idea is that whatever good we do, our parents and our grandparents have share in it. And this is a legacy which generation after generation we have to carry. And I am very confident that inshallah, Asad and On, as many of our other second generation will look into it, and we will be waiting and we will be looking for that time inshallah when they will come and they will hold the place of their father and their grandfather. Recite a salawat. One more salawat, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, we as followers of Ahlul Bayt, known as Shi'ayane Ale Muhammad, have one special blessing and very distinguished blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us, that in addition to the daily prayer and the weekly prayer as Salatul Jumu'ah and the annual prayers like Salatul Eidain and the lectures of tafsir and Quran and hadith and those kind of things, where we learn and we keep adding more and more knowledge and spirit to us. We are blessed with another institution, which is the institution of Majlis. This institution of Majlis, and then this tradition of holding Majlis Eisal-e-Thawaab for Soim, for Chehlom, and for Barsi. This is a very unique and very special forum, my brothers and sisters. First of all, as in a community, when it's a large community, these ceremonies and these majalis of Soim and Arba'een and Barsi are continuously going on. It is somebody's third, it is somebody's 40th, it is somebody's annual Majlis of Eisal-e-Thawaab. And these things keep happening. And in these majalis, as we get the opportunity to socialize with one another in a little different setting, so we get abundant opportunities to socialize with one another and to know who is who and what is happening in different families and in our community at large. Because sometimes these majalis are held at private residences. Not necessarily every majlis is held of this kind at masjid or imam bargah. So we come to know about each other's residences, each other's addresses, where they live and how they are doing, and we get to know each other. And not it's only that we get to know each other, in these majalis we learn Quran, we learn Hadith, we learn Akhlaq, we learn about current events, we learn about the event initiatives of our community, and we learn so much knowledge and so much new information. The reason that why a ordinary Shia member or a Shia Muslim knows so much about history and knows so much about Islamic teachings is actually this forum and this institution of Majlis. Because they are, even if they are the people who don't show up for Salatul Jummah, there are many even sitting here now that I never see them in Namaz-e-Jummah. And whether they have time for Namaz-e-Eid or not, that's another story. So you don't see them even in Namaz-e-Eid many times. You don't see them when you have the lectures of Quran and Tafsir and Hadith and Akhlaq and those kind of things. But in Majlis-e Eisal-e-Thawaab, even you can see those fellows who have no time for Jummah or Eidain or for those lectures and classes and activities, but in this kind of Majlis, because it's a personal invitation and it is a death in a family of friend or Chehlom or Arba'een, they cannot afford to miss it. And this is another forum where we can even reach out to those fellows and we talk to them. And even they, while they are not regular attendees, still they learn some Quran, some Hadith, some Akhlaq, some Islamic knowledge through these majalis. So this is our open school. This is just like our open school or open university, where people of every age group, people of every economic background, social background, they come in these majalis, they sit in these majalis, and at least they end up taking one thing, one line for themselves. If it is helpful for husbands, they don't forget this to go and tell their wives. And if this is very helpful for the wives, they never forget this one line of Maulana, and they go back and tell their husbands, you know what Maulana said today? And if it is in the favor of parents, they don't forget to tell their children that today Maulana said this. And if it is in the advantage of children, they always make sure to remember it and go and tell their parents that today Maulana said this. So people listen, people learn, And if they don't learn anything new, at least they get reminded about some important messages. So this is a blessing. This is the philosophy behind these majalis and this forum of Majlis Aza, this soim, this chehlum, this barsi has additional value of learning and spreading the knowledge and bringing people together and giving them the forum to socialize and share with one another. These are all the barakats and blessings of this forum. Recite a salawat. Today, now it's turning the evening, actually tonight. This is a majlis in the loving memory of a father. And I didn't recite the whole ayat. I just recited the first 3-4 words where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. It is in Surah Al-Ahqaf, chapter 46 and ayat number 15. And then a similar ayat is in Surah Al-Ankabut. And there is a similar message in Surah Luqman. And there is a similar message in Surah Bani Israel as well. So this is a known Quranic theme where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we commanded men, we commanded men to be good with his parents. So being good with parents is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some scholars that who see things in more depth, they say that when Allah talks about this, He didn't make it the issue of Iman. He made it issue of humanity. He didn't say وَوَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا or وَوَصَّيْنَا الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He said وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ, that we commanded insan, that in order to be good with your parents, necessarily you don't have to be a believer or you don't have to be a mu'min. You just need to be al-insan. Just if you are a human being and if you have the humanity, then of course you are supposed to be good with your parents. And then, as this is the sunnat of Allah, as He reveals the verses and as He talks about the issues and He gives the commandments, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces believers with role models. That if you are struggling, that how can you practice these things? How can you practice these commands of mine? Then look at these role models and their inspirational examples and see how they did. And then it will motivate you and it will help you to put yourself in their shoes. And if you look at Quran has brought many fathers and spoke about them as role models. The first one, of course, is the father of all, Adam. His story is there. The first story of Quran is the story of Adam and Hawa and Shaitan. That is the first story of Quran in the very beginning in Surah Al-Baqarah. So there is a lot which we can learn as a father from that story. Then the story of Hazrat Nuh and his family, and particularly the concern of a father, even for that son who was not that good son, who was not a believer son, who was not listening to the father, who was not doing the right things, who was abandoning his father and abandoning his message. But our role model in Quran shows us that a father cannot afford to disown his son. A father cannot afford to cut himself from his son. Even if a son cuts himself from the father, but a father cannot afford to disown his son. Hazrat Nuh is talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for rescuing his son who was in the flood. Then a great example in Quran for fatherhood, that is the Hazrat Ibrahim, a great family man and a community man, a father, a grandfather, and a father of all believers, all Muslims. And then his love with Ismail, with Ishaq, and his role raising his children at highest possible level, and whatever blessing he was used to receive from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he is asking for his zurriyat and for his children at the same time. So he is not a father that who is celebrating only his own success and is so much in his own career and his own life and his own what you call this thing, that he doesn't have anything for his children. Ibrahim, when he is made Imam, he said, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. Yes, oh my Lord, oh my God, you made me Imam, you gave me this honor, but I want to have this one for my children too. I'm a concerned father. I'm a loving father. I'm a responsible father. I don't want to go ahead alone and leaving my children behind. That is a failure father, that who stands alone without children. The successful father is the one whose children are under his wing. And whatever good or whatever through thick and thin he goes with his children and with his family. I'm just giving you the lines. I don't have time to get into the details. You can take as a project, go and read the Quran and look at the life of Ibrahim Nabi. Another example, Yaqub, a great father, that how even at the time of death, he is sitting and he has gathered all his sons and he is asking them, which God you are going to worship after me? Are you going to stick with my God? Are you going to stick with my tradition? Or you are going to be the people that who will continue my legacy? Are you sure? Are you committed? Should I die with peace? And so that story is in Quran. And this is how Yaqub was a concerned father and how loving father. Even his sons were not that good sons. Some of them, as you know the story of Yusuf. And Yaqub had suffered from the hands of his sons. But then, when they come back, they apologize. He accepts them. He embraces them. And he promises them that I will forgive you and I will seek the forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala too for you. So, this is the fatherhood in Quran. That how a father is supposed to be responsible, loving, caring, sharing, holding everyone together, making them able to carry his legacy. And then, of course, there is another very good role model for fatherhood in Quran, and there is a whole chapter in his name. And that is Luqman. Luqman. There is a chapter in Quran by the name of Luqman, and see the way how he speaks to his sons. Ya Bunayya. You know Ya Bunayya? It's not easy for me to translate it in English. First of all, my English is very poor. I don't have very big vocabulary. But I was used to say that in Urdu, as sometimes you will say, Mere Chand, Mere Mithe, my beloved, my dear. It's much more than dear and beloved. It's called, when Arabs want to call someone with great love, then they make tasgheer of that word. So he didn't say Ya Ibni, he said Ya Bunayya. A father uses that language when he communicates with his father. This tough and rough father, which we have learned in our tribal culture and our Jahili culture back home, that father has to be tough and rough, and father has to give the sone ka niwala or sher ki aankh or darinda father, that is not the father which Quran is introducing us. That is not the father which Hadith is teaching us. That is not the father which Islam is introducing us. This concept, father, that children cannot stand in front of him, children cannot face him, children cannot talk to him, children cannot, meaning get closer to him, cannot hug him, and cannot play with him, that is a tribal father. That is a Jahili father. That is not the father which Quran is teaching about and the Hadith is teaching about and the Islamic akhlaq is teaching about. The best example, my brothers and sisters, is again Rasulullah himself as a father. And again, look at his fatherhood and his daughter. No father can be that loving and that much respectful to his daughter as Prophet was used to be for his daughter. And no grandfather can be that much loving and caring and kind as Rasulullah was for his grandchildren. And then look at the Amir al-Mu'mineen. And if I had time, I would explain that there is one very common misconception which our poets and our these zakireen and our these people that who don't know anything and they come and sit and talk and preach. They have created a misconception that Janabe Sayyida Zainab Salamullah Alayha never would come forward and speak to the father. She would always stand behind a mother. She would always stand behind something and then she would speak to her father, and she never would come face to face to speak with father or sit next to father. They create this all just to create later on a contrast of masaib basically. That हाय बीबी जो बाप के सामने नहीं आती थी वो शिमर के सामने कैसे आ गई. ये सिर्फ इस एक लाइन के लिए, सिर्फ इस एक लाइन के लिए they make Imam Ali like a tribal father कि उनकी इतनी दहशत थी कि जनाबे ज़ैनब उनके सामने खड़ी नहीं हो सकती थी, आ नहीं सकती थी, बात नहीं कर सकती थी. या ये है कि जनाबे ज़ैनब अपनी मां से ज्यादा शाई थी, अपनी मां फातिमा से ज्यादा शर्म हया की मालिक थी कि फातिमा was used to go and meet the father in masjid and Fatima traveled with father in different journeys, and Fatima was, it is written in the books of history at so many occasions Fatima is hand in hand with the father and sitting next to father and face to face the father. हजरत ज़ैनब में हया फातिमा ज़हरा से ज्यादा, बाप की रिस्पेक्ट जनाबे ज़ैनब में हजरत फातिमा से ज्यादा है. या ये है कि हजरत अली इज डिफरेंट देन हजरत मोहम्मद. But this is just misconception created by these poets and these Marsiya Khans and Noha Khans and these guys that who say these kind of things, and then people listen and they believe in it and it becomes a part of their knowledge. But a father, whether it is Muhammad, whether it is Ali, whether it is Hassan, whether it is Hussein, they were all loving fathers, most kind fathers, most involved fathers with their families. And if you want to see, we have finished the Majlis, we have come to the Masaib. I don't have time, I will recite only 2 lines. If you want to see a good father, and if you want to see a role model as a father, look at these examples. Adam, Nuh, Ibrahim, Yaqub, Luqman, Muhammad, Ali, Hassan, Hussein, come all the way until Imam Hassan Askari. In Karbala, in Ashura, see love of Hussein. On one hand, love of God. On one hand, love of Quran. On one hand, love of Salat. And on the other end, love of his family. and love of his children, and then love of his companions and his friends. Go and study Karbala, go and study Ashura, and you will see at every front, Hussein has very limited time, and he is in most difficult situation. But Hussein, زبان پہ ذکر الہی, مناجات, دعا, عشق with Allah, love of Allah, and love of Allah at the level, oh my Allah, what do you need, what your deen needs, whatever you tell, whatever your deen needs, I am here to offer. I am here to offer for you and your deen. That is love of Hussein for Allah. In that night, Hussein spent a portion of night only to sit and recite Quran. They say the voices of recitation of Quran were coming from the tent of Hussein as it was the honey bee all together with, what is this thing called, Syed ka chhatta? Hive. As the honey bees are all together around the hive, and you hear that humming kind of voice of the honeybee, that kind of voice was coming from the tent of Hussein in Shab-e Ashur of recitation of Quran. And then namaz, how Hussein prayed the Fajr and how he prayed Zohar and then how he prayed Asr. That is love of Salat. And then love of companions, Hussein said farewell to every companion when he was leaving. And when he had fallen down from the horse, technically according to the tradition and the culture of that time, Hussein was not supposed to go personally there. He had to send his soul, he had to send his commanders, he had to send his representative to go and pick his body. But Hussein made sure he went to receive everybody. اور تم تو میرے مہمان تھے, حبیب تم تو میرے بچپن کے دوست تھے, زہیر تم تو ابھی کل کے دن میرے ساتھ شامل ہوئے تھے. Each and every companion, Hussein goes there and helps him at the last moment and puts his head in his lap and then holds their dead bodies of martyrs and brings them. اور پھر جب اولاد کی باری آئی تو عزیزو آپ آ کے دیکھیں حسین کی حالت کیا ہے. حسین کی آنکھوں میں آنسو ہیں, زبان پہ ذکر الہی ہے, کپڑے پھٹے ہوئے ہیں, جسم پہ جگہ جگہ زخم لگے ہوئے ہیں, خون کے دھبے ہیں, سارا دن لاشیں اٹھائی ہیں حسین نے. جس نے سارا دن خون والی لاشیں اٹھائی ہوں, مجھے بتائیے اس کے جسم اور اس کے لباس کی کیا حالت ہوگی. اس حالت میں بھی حسین خیمے میں آئے ہیں وداع کہنے کے لیے بیویوں اور بچوں کو, اور جاتے جاتے ایک ایک کو وداع کہا ہے, ایک ایک کو سلام کہا ہے حسین نے. اور پھر جب دیکھا نا کہ ایک بیمار بیٹا سامنے نہیں ہے اور خیمے میں بیمار پڑا ہے, تو باپ ہے, بیٹے کے سرہانے آتے ہیں, کہتے ہیں میرا بیمار تھوڑی دیر کے لیے اٹھ, میرے بیٹے ذرا اٹھو, میرا وقت وداع ہے. ایک مرتبہ زین العابدین نے آنکھیں کھولیں, بابا کو اس حالت میں دیکھا, بابا یہ کیا حال آپ نے بنا رکھا ہے, یہ کیا حالت ہے. کہا بیٹا بس خدا حافظ کہنے آیا ہوں, ہم اپنا امتحان دے چلے, اب بیٹا تمہارا امتحان شروع ہو رہا ہے. بیٹے کو خدا حافظ کہا, دروازے پہ آئے, حالانکہ سلام کر آئے تھے, خدا حافظ کہے آئے تھے, لیکن گھوڑے پہ سوار ہوئے تو دیکھا 3 سال کی چھوٹی سی بیٹی, جن کی اولادیں ہیں اور جن کے چھوٹے چھوٹے بچے ہیں. عزیزو 3 سال کی بچیاں جو ہیں وہ باپ کو بڑی عزیز ہوتی ہیں. یہ اولاد کی عمر ایسی ہے جس میں اولاد زیادہ پیاری لگتی ہے. حسین کی 3 سال کی بچی ہے, کہتی ہے بابا وہاں تو آپ نے سب کے ساتھ مل کے وداع کیا تھا نا, گھوڑے سے اتریے, گھوڑے سے نیچے آئیے اور ایک مرتبہ صرف مجھ سکینہ کو گلے سے لگائیے اور مجھ سے خدا حافظ کہیے. حسین اس موقع پہ جب دشمن میدان میں للکار رہا تھا گھوڑے سے اترے, چھوٹی سی بچی کو گود میں اٹھایا, سکینہ کو گلے سے لگایا, سکینہ کا ماتھا چوما اور پھر سکینہ کو کہا بیٹے بس یہ سلام آخر ہے, آج حسین واپس پلٹ کے نہیں آئیں گے. سکینہ میں چلا جاؤں گا, اماں کو تنگ نہیں کرنا, پھوپھی کو تنگ نہیں کرنا, بھائی بیمار ہے, بیٹے صبر کرنا ہے. صبر کی تلقینیں کرتے کرتے حسین خیمے سے برآمد ہوئے, خیمے سے نکل آئے. اور پھر اس کے بعد عزیزان گرامی ایک باپ کا فریضہ یہ ہوتا ہے کہ وہ اپنی اولاد میں کانفیڈنس پیدا کرے, اپنی اولاد میں یہ ہمت پیدا کرے کہ مشکل حالات میں اولاد کھڑی رہے, اولاد اپنے آپ کو لوز نہ کر بیٹھے, اولاد that the children should not lose themselves and stand in the face of difficulties and hardships. یہ باپ کا کام ہوتا ہے کہ اچھے حالات میں پیسہ کما کے دے گئے آپ اور بزنس چھوڑ گئے and your children are in happily they are living behind you, that's not a big deal. But what if everything goes away and everything is wiped out and your family gets into crisis? Then how your sons are going to behave? Then how your daughters are going to behave? Then how your family is going to face the atrocities and the calamities and the hardships and the sufferings and persecutions? That is the father challenge for father. And if you want to see how Hussein managed that, Hussein left behind وہ بیٹا زین العابدین جس نے اپنی آنکھوں سے, جس کے ہاتھوں میں ہتکڑیاں تھیں, گلے میں توق تھا, پیروں میں بیڑیاں تھیں, اور اپنے بابا کی لاش کو ایسے دیکھا تھا جس کی ہڈیاں توڑ دی گئی تھیں, جس کے اوپر گھوڑے دوڑا دیے گئے تھے, خیموں کو آگ لگا دی گئی تھی, جس کی پھوپھیاں ننگے سر قیدی بنا لی گئی تھیں, جس کی مائیں اور بہنیں قیدی بن گئی ہیں, جس کی بہن چھوٹی سی ہاتھوں میں رسن پہنے ہوئے ہے اور باپ کو کفن نہیں دے سکتا, لیکن زین العابدین ان سارے مصائب کے پہاڑ کو برداشت کرتے ہوئے کربلا سے کوفہ اور کوفہ سے شام پہنچتے ہیں اور یزید کے دربار میں کھڑے ہیں, ہاتھوں میں ہتکڑیاں, پیروں میں بیڑیاں, گلے میں توق, اور ایک ٹائرنٹ اور جابر بادشاہ یزید اس کے سامنے حسین کا بیٹا کھڑا ہے. حکومت نے کوشش کی تھی, حکومت نے پروپیگنڈا کیا تھا, حکومت نے پوری مائٹ اور پوری پاور استعمال کی تھی کہ قیدیوں کا مورال ڈاؤن ہو جائے, قیدی رونا شروع کر دیں, بیویاں اور بچے رونا شروع کر دیں, زین العابدین رونا شروع کر دیں. ظالم یہ چاہتے تھے, لیکن حسین نے اپنے خاندان کو, اپنی بہنوں کو, اپنے بچوں کو کیسا تیار کیا تھا. ارے جب ابن زیاد کے دربار میں گئے, زینب نے ابن زیاد کو ڈانٹا اور اس کو جواب دیا ترکی بترکی, اور ابن زیاد کو کھری کھری سنائی اس کے اپنے دربار کے اندر. اور پھر جب یزید کے سامنے کھڑے ہوئے تو زینب نے کھڑے ہو کے خطبہ کہا, زین العابدین نے کھڑے ہو کے خطبہ کہا, اور ایسے پاورفل خطبے کہے اور ایسا کلام کیا اور ایسی گفتگو کی کہ یزید کو منہ چھپانے کے لیے جگہ نہیں مل رہی تھی, اور ظالم اپنے دربار میں رسوا ہو گیا, اور اس کے پاس قیدیوں کو رہا کرنے کے علاوہ اب کوئی دوسرا راستہ نہ بچا. عزیزان گرامی, یہ ہے ایک باپ کی ذمہ داری, یہ ہے ایک باپ کا کردار کہ وہ نہ صرف اپنی اولاد کو, اپنی فیملی کو اچھے وقتوں کے لیے تیار کرے, بلکہ وہ اپنی اولاد کو, اپنے بچوں کو, اپنے خاندان کو برے وقتوں کے لیے بھی تیار کرے, تاکہ اگر برا وقت آ پڑے تو اس کے بچے, اس کا خاندان, وہ اپنی عزت, اپنی آبرو, اپنے شرف, اپنے احترام, اپنے موقف
کا دفاع کر سکیں. اور یہ آج کی مجلس کا سبق ہے, یہ آج کی مجلس کا درس ہے. اگر آج ہم یہ سیکھ جائیں تو میں سمجھتا ہوں مرحوم کے ایصال ثواب کے لیے ایک بہت بڑی بات ہوگی, اور ہماری کمیونٹی کے لیے بھی ایک بہت بڑا درس ہوگا. آپ سب حضرات سے درخواست ہے کہ مرحوم کے ایصال ثواب کے لیے ایک سورہ فاتحہ اور ایک سورہ اخلاص کی تلاوت کر کے ان کی روح کو ایصال فرما دیں, صلوات پڑھ کے. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. Immediately they will call azan here and we will start Salatul Maghrib. Those who can join us, they can come and join. And those who need to make wuzu, they can go and make the wuzu and come back and join us in Isha, inshallah. آپ azan کہیں.